I packed Jonathan's favorite lunch, lasagna, garlic bread, and tiramisu. He'd been working late for weeks, and I figured he could use a pick-me-up. The security guard at his office building looked at me funny when I asked for Jonathan. "Ma'am, Jonathan hasn't worked here in over 3 months," he said. My stomach dropped. What? That can't be right. He's here every day. The guard shook his head. "Sorry, but he was laid off. You might want to talk to him about it." I left, my cheeks burning. What the hell was going on? The next morning, I watched Jonathan get ready for work as usual, but before he left, he sat down on the sofa to attend to a message on his phone. "How's that potential promotion coming along?" I asked casually. He barely looked up from his phone. "Oh, you know. Still working on it. Lots to do." I waited until his car pulled out of the driveway, then called a taxi. "Follow that blue sedan," I told the driver. He gave me a weird look but didn't argue. We tailed Jonathan to a rundown part of town. He parked in a sketchy lot and walked to a small cafe. Through the window, I saw him sit down with an older woman. "Wait here," I told the driver. I crept closer, snapping photos with my phone. A younger woman joined them, then another. Soon there were 6 women at the table with Jonathan. What was he up to? As they left, I approached one of the women. "Excuse me, how do you know Jonathan?" She scowled. "That jerk? He doesn't appreciate real talent. Good luck to him." Before I could ask more, she stomped off. That night, I confronted Jonathan with the photos. "Care to explain?" His face went pale. "You followed me? Rebecca, how could you? How could I? How could you lie to me for months? What's going on?" Jonathan sighed and sank into a chair. "I quit my job to follow my dream. I'm directing a play." I stared at him. "A play? What about our mortgage? The kids' college funds? How can you afford to finance a play when you don't have a job?" "I used some of our savings," he admitted. "About $50,000. $50,000? I shrieked. "Are you insane?" "It's an investment," Jonathan insisted. "This play will be my big break." "I know it." I took a deep breath. "Either you cancel this play and return the money, or we're getting divorced." Jonathan looked at me for a long moment. "I can't give up on my dream, Becca. I'm sorry." I felt like I'd been slapped. "You're sorry? That's all you have to say?" Jonathan stood up, his hands clenched. "What do you want me to say? That I'll go back to a soul-crushing job just to make you happy? I want you to be responsible." I shouted. "We have kids, Jonathan. Bills. A future to plan for." "And what about my future?" he shot back. "My dreams? Don't those matter?" I laughed bitterly. "Not when they cost us everything we've worked for." Jonathan paced the room. "You don't understand. This play, it's my chance to make something of myself." "You already had something," I said, my voice breaking. "A family. A life. Was that not enough?" He turned away. "It's not about that. I need to do this for me." "For you," I repeated. "Not for us. Not for our children. They'll understand when I'm successful," Jonathan insisted. I shook my head. "And if you're not? What then?" "I will be," he said firmly. "You'll see." "No," I said, feeling a strange calm settle over me. "I won't. I can't watch you throw everything away on a pipe dream." Jonathan's face hardened. "Then I guess we're done here." As he stormed out, I sank onto the couch, the weight of our shattered life pressing down on me. How had we come to this? The next few months were a blur of lawyers and paperwork. I went through with it and filed for divorce, fighting to get back my half of the savings. Jonathan moved out, throwing himself into his precious play. Emily, our oldest, took it hard. "Why can't you forgive Dad?" she asked one night. I sighed. "It's not about forgiveness, honey. It's about trust. Your father broke that trust." One night, Jonathan called. "The play opens next week. Will you come?" "I don't think that's a good idea," I said. "Please, Becca. It would mean a lot." Against my better judgment, I agreed. The theater was half empty. Jonathan's play was not good. Stilted dialogue and a confusing plot. It was so bad that I left at intermission. A week later, Jonathan showed up at the house. He looked terrible, unshaven, clothes rumpled. "The play flopped," he said. "I'm so sorry, Becca. I made a huge mistake." I felt a twinge of pity but squashed it. "I'm sorry it didn't work out. But that doesn't change anything between us. Can't we try again?" he pleaded. "For the kids?" I shook my head. "You can see them according to the court schedule. But we're done, Jonathan. I've moved on." As I closed the door, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. It hurt, but I knew I'd made the right choice. Time to focus on my kids and my future without Jonathan's lies weighing me down. That night, I called my sister. "Hey, remember that trip to Europe we always talked about? Let's do it." She laughed. "Seriously? What about work?" "I'll figure it out," I said. "Life's too short for what-ifs, you know." As I hung up, I smiled. For the first time in months, I felt excited about the future. Who knew what adventures lay ahead? The next morning, I woke up early and went for a run. The crisp air felt invigorating. As I jogged past our old favorite cafe, I saw Jonathan inside, hunched over a notebook. For a moment, I considered going in. But then I kept running. Some chapters were meant to stay closed. When I got home, Emily was already up, making breakfast. "Morning, Mom," she said. "Want some pancakes?" I hugged her tight. "Sounds perfect, sweetie." As we ate, I broached the subject of our future. "I've been thinking about making some changes. How would you feel about moving?" Emily's eyes widened. "Moving? Where?" "I'm not sure yet," I admitted. "But I think a fresh start might be good for all of us." Michael wandered in, rubbing his eyes. "What's this about moving?" I explained my thoughts. To my surprise, both kids seemed open to the idea. "Can we get a dog if we move?" Michael asked. I laughed. "We'll see. One step at a time, okay?" Later that day, I met my friend Lisa for coffee. She'd been through a divorce herself a few years back. "How are you doing?" she asked. I sighed. "Honestly? It's hard. But also, freeing." "Is that weird?" Lisa shook her head. "Not at all. It's a chance to rediscover yourself." "I'm thinking of going back to school," I confessed. "Maybe finish that degree I never completed." "That's fantastic," Lisa exclaimed. "You'd be great at it." As we chatted, I felt a spark of excitement growing. Maybe this wasn't an ending, but a new beginning. That evening, as I helped Emily with her homework, my phone buzzed. It was Jonathan. "Can we talk?" his text read. I hesitated, then replied, "About the kids, yes. Anything else, no." "Fair enough," he responded. "Lunch tomorrow?" We met at a neutral cafe. Jonathan looked better than the last time I'd seen him. "I've been thinking a lot," he began. I held up a hand. "Jonathan, we're here to discuss the kids. That's all." He nodded, looking chastened. "Right. Sorry. How are they doing?" We talked about Emily's struggles in math and Michael's newfound interest in robotics. It felt almost normal until I remembered why we were here. As we were finishing up, Jonathan cleared his throat. I got a job offer. Back in finance. That's great, I said, meaning it. The kids will be glad to hear it. He hesitated. It's in Chicago. I blinked. Oh. That's far. Yeah, he said softly. I haven't decided yet. I wanted to talk to you first. I took a deep breath. You should take it if it's what you want. We can figure out visitation. Jonathan nodded, looking relieved. Thanks, Becca. For everything. As I watched him walk away, I felt sadness for what we'd lost, but also hope for the future. Life rarely turns out how we expect it. But sometimes, the unexpected turns lead us exactly where we need to go. Write in the comments what you think about the heroes of our story and subscribe to our channel.